It's my pleasure today to introduce Meera Almehrzi. Meera is a junior. She's from the United Arab Emirates, from Abu Dhabi specifically, which is the capital, not to be confused with Dubai, which most people think is the capital. Today she's going to be talking about her move to the United States and her experiences in a post-9/11 world as a person of the Arab world. Meera.
So I was sitting around with my friends and my cousins in our house in Abu Dhabi, and my dad called me to his office and he asked me how I would feel about moving. And he finally told me that we're moving to Rhode Island. I just sat there speechless, thinking of all the times that I tried to convince him to take us to the US for a vacation, and now he's telling me that we're going to move to live there. So I enjoyed my last glimpse of the UAE as I was heading to the airport, and I just looked at the lights, the people, the houses, and the weather. And as we boarded the airplane, I wandered around finding my seat. I sat there, relaxed, and until we started to take off. And not until then did thoughts come rushing through my mind about this new place which I would eventually call home. Is it really that different? And what are the people like? Is it like what we see in movies? Even what is Rhode Island? And I didn't really know whether I felt happy because it's America and I'm living abroad, or whether I felt panic-stricken because I'm thought of as an Arab, and the word Arab says it all. The place that I have moved to is different in so many ways compared to where I originally come from, the UAE. The United Arab Emirates was a desert 40 years ago, which explains why it's very hot. Today, it's one of the most advanced countries in the world, having the tallest building in the world, some of the highest skyscrapers, different man-made islands like the Palm Island. Most interestingly to me is that they're hosting the 2020 Expo. The people, the way they dress, they're all different. The food, the currency, and of course the climate. But the big question that was haunting me was, what would the people there think of me? Now, it is human nature for people to judge others, to categorize them, label, stereotype, make broad assumptions. And it's a natural thing, but this is not always a good thing or even the right thing to do. So this pulls us into the idea of stereotypes. First of all, I'd like to make it clear that not all Arabs are Muslim and not all Muslims are Arab. The Arab world has Muslims, has Christians, it has Jewish people, and Islam is a religion that's often misinterpreted, and so is the Arab world. Typically, the words used to describe us are exotic, complicated, oppressed, and of course terrorists. Do I agree with this? Of course not. I mean, I think I'm living in a way that is quite similar to most of your lives. There are, however, certain things that I am allowed to do as a Muslim, others that I'm not allowed to do, some things that I have to do, and others that I do out of choice. You might be wondering what I mean by this. Well, let's look at the way I dress. Typically, if I were in the UAE, I would wear an abaya, which is a simple, loose, black overgarment, kind of like a dress, that almost every Emirati woman would wear. When I moved here, I had the choice of taking it off, and that's what I chose. First of all, the abaya is more of a cultural thing than it is a religious, unlike the hijab. And also, I did not want to be a noticeably different person. Of course, as any other person would do, I went on the internet, looked at some schools in Rhode Island, and I found that the one that I liked and was recommended by most families that were here before us was Rocky Hill. I got to first meet Mrs. Yamada, and it was the first step in breaking the ice. Mrs. Yamada talked to me about how you guys were welcoming and how there were lots of international students in here. and it was honestly a big relief. Yet, on the first day of school, there was that sense of nervousness. I was the new kid, and I am the only one here who has to cover my hair. So I went into my first class, which was Mr. Tinsley's English class, and we sat around the table, and fortunately, each person started introducing themselves, and I got a hint as to what they're like, and okay, it was not a bad beginning. As the days went by, I got used to the environment and the people, many of whom were truly welcoming, and every single day I learned something new about someone. Even a month in, I was still learning. For instance, I hadn't known that Kate and Andrew were siblings until October. I have also spoken with a student who was here before me, Shahad Ali, who most of you might know, and almost everyone here was welcoming and approaching me with smiles and talking to me just like she said you were going to be. And one of the best things that I've seen here is that my friends regarded my differences. I'm new to them, they're new to me, and think about it. What is the world without differences? Imagine how boring that would be. But even to this day, however, I still have that feeling that I'm that new girl. So recently I've been to DC, and while I was there, I felt so self-conscious, and I had to watch and think about the things I said and the things I did, because I did not want to be judged as negatively as many Arabs would typically be. So there still is that level of discomfort. But as I speak to you today, I'm curious about what the people back home think of me doing this. Are they thinking that I'm brave enough to stand here and give this speech? Or do they have other thoughts? Back to my feelings and me, will I fit in with my friends back home? I mean, I'm different now. I now consider myself an accepted member of the junior class, and just like it was hard for me to leave my friends in the UAE and come here, I think it's going to be as hard having to leave Rocky Hill and Rhode Island in summer, now that it has become my second home. It's all happening too fast. I arrived in summer, this summer. School started in fall. Spring is yet to be a surprise, and in summer I'm going back home. Thank you. We have time for about 3 questions. Stacy,
So you're not coming back next year?
I'm not coming back.
You're going back to school then in the UAE?
I am.
Does that mean you move again with, are you living here right now with your family?
Yes.
And you guys all move back?
Yeah, my dad's here for a Navy course, and he's just here for a year. We came with him, and we're going back again in June, at the end of June. Thanks, Ben.
What's the difference? What's the biggest difference in some way?
Well, the big one, of course, is the weather. It could get to 130 degrees over there in summer. And what we consider cold is like kind of normal to you guys. Yeah. What else is different? School. And when I was in the UAE, I was in an all-girls school. Here I'm in a mixed school, which is kind of new to me.
Will you go to college in the UAE?
I hope so, but I don't think so. Yes, Edward.
I was just wondering, where do you want to live when you grow up? Will you consider living in America?
Well, not live, probably come for just like this visit, just 1 year. One more question? Yes, Anna. I'm trying to convince my dad for me to stay here 1 more year for my senior year. They're still thinking about it? I don't think so.
Do you find students here different than students at home, or are we all the same?
Well, there are some differences and some similarities. I'd say more similarities than differences. In that, yeah, you're more similar. We're more similar than different. Yes, difference. My favorite part about Rocky Hill is being with my friends here. And as I said here, it's going to be so hard for me to have to leave America and go back to the UAE.